You wake up in a world where stepping outside means death, and the only person between you and survival is someone who's been lying to you since birth. Welcome to life under a Vault-Tec Overseer. These weren't elected officials or benevolent leaders. They were corporate operatives planted in underground bunkers with one job: make sure the experiment continues, no matter how many people suffer. Vault-Tec built 122 vaults before the bombs fell. Only 17 were designed to actually protect people. The rest? Human laboratories where overseers had absolute authority to enforce experiments that ranged from psychological torture to systematic extermination. And here's what makes it truly disturbing. Most vault dwellers had no idea they were test subjects. The word overseer sounds administrative, almost boring. But in practice, these individuals wielded power that would make dictators jealous. Fallout 3's loading screens spell it out plainly. The Overseer is the incontestable leader of Vault 101, and his word is law. Not guidelines, not suggestions. Law. They controlled job assignments, food rations, who could marry whom, and whether you lived or died. Question their authority? That wasn't just rebellion, it was suicide. Dr. Stanislaus Brown designed this system deliberately. As director of Vault-Tec's Societal Preservation Program, he distributed sealed orders to each overseer weeks before the Great War. Those orders contained the vault's true purpose, the experiment parameters, and explicit instructions. Don't tell the residents, don't deviate from the protocol, or you're terminated. Not fired. Terminated. Think about what that means for a second. You're sealed in an underground bunker with hundreds of people who trust you to keep them safe. But you've got orders to manipulate them, lie to them, maybe even kill them, all in service of some corporate experiment. The residents see you as their protector. You see them as lab rats. Vault 13's overseer Jacorin faced this exact nightmare. His vault was supposed to stay sealed for 200 years as an isolation experiment. Simple enough until the water purification chip failed. He had to send someone outside, breaking the experimental protocol immediately. The vault dweller he sent didn't just find a replacement chip. They discovered super mutants threatening the entire region and eliminated the threat. Heroes welcome, right? Not exactly. When the vault dweller returned, Jacarin met them at the entrance and refused entry. His reasoning? The dweller had seen too much of the outside world. They'd tell others it was survivable out there. People would want to leave. The experiment would fail. So Jacarin, this man who'd just been saved by someone he sent into the wasteland, exiled them. His exact words capture the twisted logic perfectly. You saved us, but you'll kill us. I'm sorry, you're a hero and you have to leave. The Vault's population didn't take it well. They put Jacarin on trial for keeping them blind to reality and sentenced him to death. The man who thought he was protecting his people by following orders ended up executed by the very community he tried to preserve. But Jacarin's tragedy looks almost noble compared to what happened in Vault 101. That vault's experiment tested something far more insidious than isolation. It tested perpetual deception across multiple generations. The official story? Vault 101 never received an all-clear signal. The outside world remained too dangerous for human survival. Regular radio transmissions confirmed this, describing nuclear hellscapes where nothing could live. The Overseer reinforced this message constantly. Your only salvation is in the vault, and leaving means certain death. Except the radio transmissions were fake, recorded before the bombs even fell. The Overseer had a secret tunnel to the surface and regular contact with the outside world. He knew the wasteland was survivable. He knew other communities existed, and he kept that information locked away while feeding his people manufactured nightmares about what waited beyond the vault door. When that original Overseer died in 2127 at age 84, he'd already groomed his replacement. That new Overseer continued the lie, but added a twist. He started recruiting senior vault dwellers into the conspiracy, creating a multi-generational cabal of people who knew the truth, but kept it from their own children. By 2277, entire families were complicit in this deception, watching their kids grow up believing the outside world had ended while they secretly knew otherwise. Why maintain such an elaborate lie for over 150 years? Because the experiment wasn't about isolation. It was about testing how long an overseer's authority could sustain a false reality through nothing but systematic deception and manufactured fear. Alphonse Almodovar took this philosophy to its logical extreme. As Vault 101's overseer in 2027, he didn't just maintain the lie, he killed to protect it. Almodovar grew up during a brief period when Vault 101 actually opened. Dwellers explored the wasteland during the day and returned at night. But his parents filled his head with paranoia about the outside world, and that fear calcified into ideology. When the previous overseer, someone who supported outside contact, disappeared in the wasteland under suspicious circumstances, Almodovar seized control. His first major decision? Seal the vault permanently. His second? Murder anyone who threatened that isolation. When Jonas, a vault doctor, planned to leave with another dweller, Almodovar ordered his security chief to kill him. His justification reveals the mindset perfectly. I didn't kill Jonas. I commanded Chief Hannon to do so, but only because it had to be done. Jonas was going to leave with your father. If he left, others would have left to join them. He genuinely believed murder was a reasonable response to people wanting freedom. Almodovar's reign ended when that doctor's child confronted him during an escape attempt. The overseer who justified killing to protect his vault died trying to prevent someone from leaving it. These stories share a common thread. Overseers weren't random tyrants who seized power. They were carefully selected operatives, given absolute authority, and programmed to value the experiment above human life. Vault-Tec designed the position this way intentionally because their vaults weren't really about preserving humanity. They were about testing how far you could push people when someone with absolute power told them it was necessary. And the answer, as it turns out, is pretty far. The Vault 111 Overseer never wanted to be a monster. He just followed orders until those orders ran out. When the Great War hit, Vault 111's residents were frozen in cryogenic pods while research and security staff stayed conscious to monitor the experiment. Vault-Tec told them they'd receive an all-clear signal after 180 days. Then they could evacuate. Simple plan. Except the signal never came. Supplies started running low. Security personnel asked when they could leave. The overseer deflected. They asked again. He posted researchers outside his office to keep them away. As the 180-day deadline approached with no word from Vault-Tec, security realized they'd been abandoned. They wanted out. The overseer refused, convinced the surface was still saturated with lethal radiation. So he disabled the main entrance and sealed himself in his office with the researchers and remaining rations. Security mutinied. They bypassed the lock, killed everyone inside, and left the vault. The overseer's skeleton sat in that office for over 200 years until the sole survivor woke up and found it. A monument to what happens when absolute authority meets desperate people with nothing left to lose. But here's what makes the overseer system truly insidious. These weren't isolated incidents. Vault-Tec designed it this way. Dr. Stanislaus Braun, director of the Societal Preservation Program, sent sealed orders to each overseer weeks before the bombs fell. Opening those orders or telling residents about the experiment meant immediate termination. Not from the job, from existence. The letter to Vault 101's overseer spelled it out clearly. Maintain the deception or face consequences. Vault-Tec created 122 vaults total. Only 17 were control vaults, operating as advertised with no hidden experiments. The other 105? Laboratories for testing how humans respond to psychological torture, social manipulation, and authoritarian control. Each overseer knew this. Each one chose to participate anyway. Consider Vault 11. Every year, residents elected a new overseer. Then they killed that person as a sacrifice to keep the vault's life support running. Except the life support was never in danger. The computer system would have kept running regardless. Vault-Tec just wanted to see how long people would murder their neighbors when told it was necessary. The answer? Generations. By the time only 5 residents remained, they finally refused to elect anyone. The computer congratulated them for valuing human life and told them they'd passed the test. 4 of them immediately committed suicide from the guilt of what they'd done. The 5th walked out alone into the wasteland. That's the pattern. Overseers weren't evil masterminds. They were middle managers given godlike authority and told their actions served some greater purpose. Most convinced themselves they were protecting their people. Some, like Yakoran of Vault 13, actually believed it. Yakoran's vault was supposed to stay sealed for 200 years. Then a water chip malfunctioned. He had to send someone outside to find a replacement, breaking the experiment's parameters. That person, the Vault Dweller, succeeded, then discovered super mutants threatening the region. Yakoran sent them back out to eliminate that threat too. When the Vault Dweller returned victorious, Yakoran met them at the door and refused entry. His reasoning was almost sympathetic. "You saved us, but you'll kill us. What happens if we lose the best of a generation? What if we're the only safe place in the world? I can't take that chance." He genuinely believed exiling the person who'd saved everyone was the right choice. The residents disagreed. They put Yakoran on trial, found him guilty, and executed him for keeping them isolated from a survivable world. The 2024 Fallout series revealed something even more disturbing about the Overseer system. Vault 31 operated as a cryogenic storage facility for Vault-Tec executives. These corporate employees would be thawed out periodically to serve as overseers for neighboring Vaults 32 and 33, ensuring Vault-Tec loyalists controlled the experiments for centuries. Bud Askins, a Vault-Tec vice president, took this further. He had his brain removed and installed in a robot body to become Vault 31's permanent overseer, managing the entire operation for over 200 years. He'd release frozen executives from their pods, have them serve as overseers until their term ended, then freeze them again and wake someone else. An endless cycle of corporate control disguised as salvation. Hank McClain, overseer of Vault 33, was one of these thawed executives. His daughter Lucy grew up believing her father was a benevolent leader chosen by merit. She had no idea he was a pre-war corporate employee who'd helped design the system that imprisoned her ancestors. When she finally learned the truth, it shattered her understanding of everything the Vault represented. This is what Vault-Tec's experiments really tested, not survival strategies or social dynamics. Control. How much authority could one person wield over others? How long could elaborate lies sustain themselves? What would people accept when someone with absolute power told them it was necessary? The Overseers were both perpetrators and victims of this system. They committed atrocities while believing they protected their people. They maintained experiments that destroyed lives while convincing themselves they served humanity's future. And when their authority finally collapsed, whether through rebellion, exposure, or simple mortality, the damage they'd caused lasted generations. Vault-Tec succeeded in creating something far worse than nuclear annihilation. They built self-sustaining systems of oppression that would outlive the civilization that created them. The Overseers weren't aberrations. They were the logical result of giving absolute power to people who believed their authority justified any action. Every vault door that sealed shut trapped people with someone who held total control over their lives. Someone who'd been told their word was law and their decisions unquestionable. Someone who would maintain that authority through deception, manipulation, or violence because Vault-Tec's sealed orders demanded it. The experiments ended when the bombs fell. But the Overseers kept them running for centuries afterward because that's what the system was designed to do. Create authority figures so invested in maintaining control that they'd sacrifice everything else to preserve it, even their own humanity. That's the real legacy of Vault-Tec's Overseers, not the individual tyrants or their specific atrocities, but the revelation of what humans become when you strip away accountability and tell them their power serves a higher purpose. These weren't monsters who crawled out of the wasteland. They were ordinary people handed extraordinary authority and convinced that maintaining it mattered more than the lives it destroyed. Vault-Tec proved something deeply unsettling about human nature. You don't need decades of conditioning or genetic predisposition to create authoritarians. You just need to give someone absolute power, seal them in a box with people who can't escape, and tell them their actions are justified by circumstances beyond anyone's control. The experiments supposedly tested humanity's ability to survive. What they actually revealed is how quickly survival becomes an excuse for control, and how easily control becomes indistinguishable from cruelty. Every overseer who ordered executions, maintained deceptions, or enforced brutal experiments did so believing they protected their vault's future. They were wrong. but Vault-Tec's system ensured they'd never face consequences until it was far too late. The sealed orders, the absolute authority, the manufactured isolation, all designed to create leaders who couldn't be questioned until their power had already destroyed the communities they claimed to protect. The wasteland eventually opened every vault door, but the damage done by centuries of unchecked overseer authority can't be undone. Those who survived their vaults didn't just emerge into a nuclear hellscape. They carried with them the psychological scars of living under leaders who'd convinced themselves that absolute power was the same thing as absolute necessity. And that might be the most successful experiment Vault-Tec ever conducted.